what's up everyone? My name is Taimur Abdelaziz and here's another Oxygen Builder tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to learn how to create 3 different hover effects and interactions using only Oxygen Builder. We will start with an image scaling effect with changing the background to gradient, then an image swapping effect, and finally a 3D flip rotation effect. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first thing, let's add a section. And inside the section, I'm gonna create a grid of 3 columns. So I'll just drop in an empty div and I'll set the width 100%. Let's make the display grid. We want 3 columns here and the gap 30 pixels. And finally, I will set the vertical alignment to stretch so all the columns will have the same height. Okay, I will select the parent grid now and I will just add 3 empty divs. So as you can see now, we have a grid of 3 columns. I will select the first column and let's add the first card. I will just add an empty div here. I will give it a class of card1. I'll go to the advanced size and spacing, then I will set the width to 100%. And the minimum height, I'm gonna give it a minimum height of 600 or maybe 580 pixels, just so we can see the content inside this card. I will go back to the layout and set the overflow to hidden and the position to relative. That's it. I will go back now to the borders. Let's make the border radius 10 pixels and the solid, let's add a solid border of 4 pixels, blue, and make the style solid. So as you can see now, we have a card with a border, with a blue border here. Let's add some content inside this card. So I will just select the card and drop the content in a div. I'm gonna give it a class of card content so we can use it on other cards. I'll just set the width to 100%. And let's give the content some breathing room by just giving vertical and horizontal padding here. Then I will just select the card content and let's just drop in an icon here. I will set its size to 46 and I have custom icon set, clothing icon set, so I will pick one from this icon set. Now I'll select the card content and let's add a heading, an H2 heading. Let's set the size to, let's say, 50 or 48 and change the text to something else. Now let's select the card content again and add a text element. Let's say winter 2022 collection. That's it. Now let's select the card and change the layout, the flex layout to vertical and the vertical alignment to bottom. Now let's change the color of the card content, and here I will show you a very useful keyword to use as a color value, which is current color. Yes, current color is a valid color value and it is so useful when you want a certain color to be consistent in an element. So let's add the current color value to all the elements here. I will select the icon here and in the color field, I will just put current color. This is the keyword. It works like a variable, so you can control all the colors of the elements by just changing the parent color. And it can be used in other things like the background or the border color, not just only the text color. So I'll select the heading here, the same. I'll set the value to current color, and the text field, I will set the value to current color. So as you can see now, if I select the parent color now and go to the typography, when I change the color, all the elements inside this parent will have the same color. And as I said, this is useful not only in the text color. So for example, if I select the card now and I go to the border here, I can give the border the same thing, which is the current color. See, the border took the same color of the parent text color. This is so useful when you want to control elements on hover or you want to change the style of, let's say, an entire group of elements by just changing the color from one place. So I'll just remove this one. I don't want, I'll return this to blue. Then I will go back to the typography of our card and change the color to this blue. So as you can see now, we have finished adding the content to the first card. Let's add the image to this card. I will select the card and let's drop in an image here. I will give it a class of card1image. Then the first thing to do here is I will just pick one from the media library, let's say this one, and I will just make the width and height 100%. I'll go to the layout and set the position to absolute, the top to 0, the left to 0, and to send this image behind the content, I'm gonna give it a -1 z index, so it will be behind the text. Okay, let's go back to the custom CSS and add this custom property, which is object fit property, and let's give it a value of cover. This is just to maintain the aspect ratio of our image. Now I will go back to the this is our image, so I will set the initial state of this image to, I will reduce the transparency of this image so it will be barely visible in its initial state. So I will go to the effects here, opacity, and reduce the opacity to 0.1. And because we want to animate this this image, let's just make a transition here of 0.4 seconds. Okay, so now let's add the hover effect or the interaction to this card. I will select the card, make sure that you select the parent card here. So we want to add a hover effect. What do I want to achieve here? When I hover over this card, I want to change the color of the content and I want to add a gradient background here. So what to do here? I will just select the hover state of our card. So on hover, I will just go to the typography and change the color here to white. Then I will go to the background and go down to the gradients here, and I will add a gradient color. I will add two colors here. The first one is transparent. The second one is this dark blue. So as you can see now we have a gradient background on hover to our card, but I want this gradient not to go from bottom to top. I want the gradient to stop in the middle here. So I will just add 50% stop point here. I want this gradient to end here. So I will just add this 50%. So we'll have this nice and smooth gradient color on hover. Now I will just go to the card again, to the states of our card again, and I want to target the image now. When we hover over this card, we want to target the image inside this card. So to do this, I will just add a custom state. I showed this trick in my previous videos, so I'll repeat it here again. I will just add a state, custom state, and say when hover space, I want to target the card1image class. So what does this mean? When we hover over the card, we want to change things in this class. So I'll just hit OK. And what we want to change, I want to change the opacity, return to opacity to 1, and I want to add some zoom or scaling effect. So to do this, I will go to the advanced effects here, return the opacity to 1, and go to the transform and add a scaling or zooming effect by just making the scale to 1.1 here. And let's not to forget to add the transition to our card, the initial state of our card, so we can see a smooth transition here, 0.4. So let's save now, and if I preview this one, so let's hover now, and as you can see, we have this smooth hover effect interaction between the card and the image. So now let's go and add our second card. I will go back to the oxygen now. I will select the second column here, and I will just drop in an empty div here. Then I'm going to give it a class of card2. Let's go to the size and spacing and set the width and height to 100%. Then I'll go back to the layout, set the overflow to hidden and the position to relative. Then I will just add a background, let's say a gradient background to this one. Again, I will add two colors here. The first one is transparent. The second one is this dark blue. And again, we want to stop the transparency at 50%. That's it. One final thing to do here is to make the color white, and I will go back and make the border radius 10. And just to make things easier, I will just right click and copy the content div here, or the content wrapper here. I will just select the cart2 and paste the content inside cart2. As you can see, it's on the top now. I will just select the cart2 and change the flex layout to vertical and the vertical alignment to bottom. Let's change the text here to something else. Let's say men fashion, and change the icon to something else. Okay, that's it. So now let's add the images to the cart2. I will just select cart2 and I'm gonna drop in an image here. I will just pick one from the library and let's give it a class of cart2 image. Let's set the width to 100% and the height to 100% also. I will go to the advanced, to the layout, and make sure that the position is absolute, the top to 0 and the left to 0, and make sure to send this image behind the content. So I will just give it a z-index of -1 here. Then finally I will go to the custom CSS and add the object fit property, just to maintain the aspect ratio of this image. Object fit cover, make sure that the value is cover here. So that's it for the we have added the first image. Now I will add the second image because we are going to make a swap effect here, image swap effect. So I will add this second image. So instead of adding another image with another class and deal with them or manipulate them separately, I will just use the same class. I will just duplicate this image here with the same class, and I will just go to the media library and pick another image now. And as you can see now, the second image now is above the first because it's the second in order, and both of them are using the same class with an absolute position. So we have the second image on top of the first image. So now I want to target the second image. I want to hide this image in its initial state. I want to set the opacity to 0 and give it like a transform or scale value, so we can scale it down on hover, when we hover over the card. So to do this, instead of just giving this the second image another class, I will just manipulate, or I will just manage the same class, which is cart2 image. So to target the second image of the same class, I will use a very useful pseudo class here, or a custom state. Let's say add a custom state or a pseudo class, which is the nth of type. Nth of type. This pseudo class or this state will select the elements based on their type. Okay, so in this case we want to pick the second one of this type, which is the second image. So this pseudo class will affect the second image, which has the same type. In this case, the type is image and has a class of cart2 image. If I just hit OK now, we can now change things on this image only, the second one. I will go to the advanced now. From the effects, I will reduce the opacity to to 0. As you can see, it's hidden now. And I will go to the transform and add the scale property here, or the scale value of the transform, and make the transform to 1.2. We want to have this zooming or zoom in effect. So this is the initial, let's say, state of the second image, the second of its type. Okay, so if I just hit save now, I will go back to the front end. Nothing can change because we didn't add the hover interaction on the card itself. We just added the content, we added 2 images, and we hide the second one. So I will go back now and select the card. Make sure that you are selecting the card here, selecting the card. And from the card, we want to change the, we want to control or want to target the second image from the card when we hover over the card. So to do this, I will add a custom state here, which is a pseudo class or a custom pseudo class. So what we want to achieve here, so when we hover over the card, when we hover over card space, we want to target the image, actually the image element, let's say. But which image element? We don't have to, or we don't need to specify the class exactly, the class name exactly. We can just use the image or the element tag here. We want to target the image because inside this card2 we have only 2 images. So which image do you want to target in this case? I want to target the second of its type, the second image. If you use, by the way, if you use nth child or any other pseudo class, it will target all of them because we have other elements inside this card2, which is the div here. So by using nth of type, we are more specific. We are just going to choose or target the image with the same type and class. So I will just make hover image, then the pseudo class will be nth of type, and I will in the parentheses I will just set 2. That means when we hover over the card, we want to target the second image. I'll just hit OK. So on hover, when we hover over the card, what we want to change in the second image, I will just go to the advanced effects here. I will return the opacity to 1. Then I will go to the transform and return the scale to 1 also. So by just save now, I will go to the front end, refresh, and let's hover now. We have this effect without transition because we didn't add transition to the image. Let's just go to the card image, the original state or the initial state of the card image, and let's go to the effects and add the transition of 0.4. Save, refresh. So as you can see now we have this effect. We are targeting on hover, we are targeting the second image. We want to show the second image when we hover over the card. So the idea here is so simple. Add 2 images, hide one of them in its initial state, and when we hover over the card, just reverse the value, reverse what you did in its initial state. Return the opacity to 1 and return the scale to 1. That's it. And to make this more, let's say, fancy, let's also target the first image on hover. Let's have this swiping effect more dynamic. Let's because the first image is still static when we hover. So just to make it more fancy, let's target the first image also. So I will go back to the card here. Make sure that you are selecting the card, and from the states menu here we have targeted the second one on hover. What to do here? I will target the image in general, okay, without specifying that I want to target the first one, because we have already custom values or custom properties here for the second one. So all I have to do here is just to add a state here. So when we hover here, I will just target the image. So I'll make it general. I will just target the the images in general without, and here this is more specific for the second image, but here I will just target all the images on hover. So to do this, by doing this, I will affect only the first image because the second image is affected by this state. So I'll just hit OK now. I will go to the advanced effects. So I will reverse what I did with the second image. I will go to the on hover. I want to hide the first image, and I want to make the scale to 1.2. I reversed what I did with the second image. So by doing this, I will just hit save now. See now, before I refresh, now the first image is not moving on hover. But now after I refresh, you'll see that we have this interaction, this cool effect, like swiping effect between the two images. That's it. So now let's go back to the oxygen and add our third card. I will select the third column here, and let's add our third card. In our third card, we're going to add two images and make a 3D flip. Let's say flip between the two images in a 3D rotation. So to do this, I will just select this one. I will add an empty div, and let's give it a class of card3. I'll go to the advanced size and spacing and set the width and height of the card3 to 100%. And from the layout panel, I will just add the position relative. Don't add the overflow because this will affect the 3D rotation of the images. I will just add the position relative. Then I will go back and add the most important property here, which is perspective property. This property will add the depth in the Z axis to our cards to flip or to make or to do the 3D rotation. So this property is perspective. This is very important to have this 3D effect. So I'll give a high value here, let's say 1000 pixels, just to give, let's say, enough room for our cards to rotate. So I'll go back now, and let's add two images here, or two cards. So because the images or the cards here will share a lot of similar properties, so I will do the same thing with I did in the first card. I will make a general class for the shared properties, and I will make two separate classes. One is a front face for the front face card, and another one is a back face for the back face card. So let's add an empty div here, and let's give it a class of let's say card3 cover. This class will have all the shared, let's say, properties between the front face and the back face cards. The first thing to do here is I will just go to the layout and set the position to absolute, make it 0 on the top and left and right and bottom. Then I will go to the typography and set the color to white because we want the content to have the white color. Again, I will go to the border radius, make the border radius 10. Not to forget to add a transition because we want to make 3D rotation, so let's add a transition. Then finally, and the most important property here, is to add in the custom CSS the back face visibility property. Back face dash visibility. Back face visibility, and set the back face visibility to hidden. Okay, what does this mean? Because in CSS, if you the back face of each element is, let's say, a mirror of the front face. So if we rotate an element, we will see the mirror of the front face. So we want to, because we want to see the other, when we hover, we want to see a flip or rotation. We want to see the second card. Let's hide the back face visibility of each one of them. So we will only see the front face of each one of them. So that's it. This is very important. Now I have finished the card 3 cover. Now let's add the back face, or the front face and the back face. Let's start by adding the front face. So by selecting the same card, this is the shared class, I will add another class to the same one. So in this case, I will say front face, let's say. So this front face class will be added to the same element, to the same div, just to make the different, to add the what's different between the front face and the back face. So I'll just add this class, go to the background, let's add the first, let's say front face, this one, I'll pick this one, make the background cover, and I will go down to the gradient here and add 2 colors, the gradient colors, or the gradient background, transparent, make the transparency to stop at 50%, the color to this dark blue, and let's just select the content here, the card content, copy and paste it here. Let's select the front face, and from the flex layout make it vertical and the alignment to bottom. I don't want this icon here. I'll just change the text to something else like new arrivals. That's it, and let's just make it center. That's it. Cool. So this is the front face. This is the front face of our card. Let's add now the back face. So to do this, I will just duplicate this one, and instead of front face, I will just delete this one and add the back face class. This is a modifier class to the card 3 cover. I will just add the back face class, just add this class. So what to change here, I will just add a different background color, background image, sorry. Make the size cover, and again let's add the gradient, 2 colors, transparent and this dark blue. And in this case I want the gradient to be from bottom to top. I don't want to stop this gradient in the middle, so we'll keep it like this. Then by selecting the back face, I will go to the flex layout and make it vertical and in the middle. I want it in the middle. Let's just change this one to something else, like get 70% off your first order. Just something different. So that's it. Now we have finished adding the 2 cards, but what to do with the second one? This is the back face. This is the back face card. I want to hide this card in each initial state, and I will not do reduce the opacity or make the opacity 0 or do what I did with the first card. No, I want to rotate this one, rotate it so I can hide this one by the rotation. So to do this, I will select the back face here, then I will go to the advanced effects, and from the transform I will just add the transform property rotate Y, or the value of the transform property rotate Y, and I will rotate the back face card to 180 degrees. So as you can see, now we only see the front face. We sent this, or we rotate this back face card by 180 in the Y axis. So that's it. I will go now, I will select the card. Let's select, make sure that you select the parent, the card 3. So from the card 3, I will target the front face and the back face. So what to do? The idea here is when I hover over the card 3, I want to rotate the first card, the front face, I want to rotate it minus 180 degrees, and I want to return the back face to return it back to 0. So to do this, I will just select card 3 from the states here. I will add custom states, just add custom state. So when I hover over card 3, I want to target at first the front face class or the front face element. So what to do? I will just go back now to the effects, transform, and I will rotate this one on hover, rotate in the y-axis on hover minus 180 degrees. Okay, so now I will make the same thing to the back face. I will go to the cards here and I will add custom state to target the back face. So when I hover over the card 3, I want to target the back face. So by doing this, I will just go to the transform. Now we are targeting the back face, and because its initial rotation was 180, I will just return it to 0. So I'll go back now, save, refresh. So as you can see now, we have this amazing 3D rotation between the back face and the front face. So as you can see, we have created 3 cards with different hover effects and interactions using only Oxygen and without using any third-party plugins or libraries. I'm here, guys, to show you the power of Oxygen and what you can achieve with some CSS knowledge. Alright, so that's it for this video. I hope this tutorial will help you build better websites, and see you on the next one.